Thanks for listening to That Great Mank Pod. Please do us a massive favour and subscribe to this podcast. And if you can, leave us a review on iTunes. Both are a massive help, enabling us to promote the people and the great causes we champion to a much bigger audience. If you want to get in touch, give us a follow on Twitter at Great Mank Pod and drop us a DM. Cheers.
You're listening to That Great Mank Pod, Greater Manchester's community podcast. Top one, our kid.
Great to see you.
Me too.
We've tried to set this up a few times, and
I know I missed a message. I do apologise on my Instagram.
No, I'm not having a go. I'm just saying.
This was about 20 times, Jenny. This is the last one.
This is your last chance. No, not at all. It's great to see that you're really busy, and I'm loving the stuff that I'm seeing on social media. I think that, and listen, if you once you get to know us, you realise we don't blow smoke up people's arses because you're too old for that. Yeah, but I really like the stuff that you do because I think it's really relatable.
Oh, thank you.
And it just always, not all of it, obviously, because there's some, obviously there's serious stuff in there, but most of it just sticks a smile on my face.
We've got a laugh though, haven't we? We've had such a rubbish time since COVID. We need to crack our faces a bit more.
Do you know what I have this thing with? I mean, spoken word. I mean, Dave Scott, good mate of mine. Dave Viney, good mate of mine. Known him a long time. Quite a few people involved in that. Didn't know what it was until a few years ago when I got in with Dave became a mate.
Yeah.
But it's pretty hit and miss for me. But I do think it's become a bit like I call it trauma bingo.
Oh I mean the spoken words, like what the narratives people are saying. Because this is why, I'll tell you why, because people use it as a therapeutic outlet, which is great. But there's a divine line between entertainment and that outlet. I run workshops with the prisoners and all kinds, and that is an outlet, and it's great. Yeah. But there is a difference, if someone's buying a ticket, they don't want to leave crying.
That's why there's no audiences, and the only people that are there, the self-help groups. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I've no issues. Yeah. There's a load of people that are getting together, sharing their feelings, stories, and stuff, but then pretending that it's for an audience. Well, it's not.
No, there's a difference, and I do bang on about this a lot because when people go and run workshops, because I do go a lot of places, people ask me, Jenny, give me contacts, and I'll share contacts. But I do say you've got to be careful as well because you're either an entertainer or you're going to help people. And if you go in like the prisons, like I go, you can't go in with blowing smoke up your own ass, being an entertainer, if you're going to leave a load of addicts feeling like crap. So you need to know what hat you're wearing, and you need to understand and be trained right to do that, because it looks like the same thing, but there's a spectrum and it's not the same thing. Does that make sense?
That is, to be honest, if that was all we put out.
Right, we'll see you later. Go into your field run.
Jenny, I worked in the prisons for a long time on the charity sector. I've worked in 5 of them. I've worked on therapeutic communities, coaching, mentoring, all sorts of stuff. And I say, people who say to me, I want to go and work in there, I go, well, don't be a dick, because they'll see right through you.
Oh, straight away.
You've got to be genuine. Now, I'm a trained bloody prison, and I walked away from it because it was all bollocks. Do you know the courses that the
counsellor?
No, the courses they have to do. So part of the sentences you have to do think twice course, or you have to do this, or you have to do that. And it's all nonsense, and I've been down and had the training. Most of the people that are in there, the lads that I work with mainly, they're blagging it because they just want to get parole. The tutors don't give a shit anyway because they're probably burnt out. And the whole thing isn't a connection. Without that connection, you're not going to have change.
It's very, very tough. I mean, I've done it for 8-9 years in the prisons, but I go in as a freelancer and I do what I do. And the most barriers I've come across, and I say this can go out, I've said it on the radio, is the staff for me. Because, but been in it that long, I do get it. It's just so overrun and crammed. Everyone's burnt out.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone's there to be a total like knob on purpose. The prisoners probably are if they've been going through being reformed. Let's be real. It's not a Disneyland, but it's like the NHS. It's just burnt out.
Yeah.
But I think I'm fine. I'm very lucky, really, because I've had some great groups. But it's working with the right charities with the right mindset. And like you said right at the beginning, if you go in a prison wing and you're not being authentic, they'll just say, "Fuck you, I am not coming in." And I don't blame them. I wouldn't if I sat there all day. And I'm just who I am, wherever I go, really.
Well, listen, listen, this is Damien, by the way. He's the co-founder of the charity. You can tell how keen we are to get into this, because normally there's a bit of an intro, but forget that. I'll put that in, put that bit on another time. But yeah, I mean, especially the stuff you're doing at HMP. I mean, I've got 5 or 6 lifelong mates who are prison officers.
Yeah.
And they work across the Northwest, but quite a few at HMP. So listen, I get every time we go out for the first 20 minutes, it's war stories about what's going on there. And it's and people just don't realize, or don't care what's going on in the prisons. And they are going through so much in terms of the mental health is battered.
Well, this is where I do have to be careful what put out there. Yeah, I'm sure many do. I'm sure they do. But at the moment, I'm actually doing a different project with the prison officers. I'm doing creative writing workshops with the staff.
That's what I saw. Yeah. That looks ace.
Funded by Hull University.
Right.
And to work with the staff on the other side of it, it's been so refreshing and amazing because of what you've just kind of touched on.
Yeah.
It shows both sides. So, and the people on it are loving it because they're saying it's like an oasis from the job, if you like. Not because I'm amazing at just because a break anywhere, you know. I think anyone could be delivering it. It's not me, but just to get that hour to get them to express themselves.
So how does it, well, I'll tell you what, before we go any further, can you just give us a rundown of and I'll stick this at the beginning of who you are and what you do, you know, and it'll make sense ultimately when we edit this. But yeah, if you could do that for us.
Yeah, so I'm Jenny Berry. I'm a poet, writer, and speaker. Basically, I shuffle the alphabet, and however I get jobs using words, I will do it. But I specialise in writing workshops to help vulnerable communities.
Right, and how long have you been doing that?
10 years. The workshop side, I've been writing since I could hold a pen.
Right, is that full time? That is your. So you mentioned you were freelance, because we've talked for about half an hour before this introduction. So you mentioned you were freelance. So is that what your full time role now, and how long has that been for?
So I'd call my workshops my bread and butter. So yeah, right. And I kind of manifest / blag work as I go along. so
same thing.
It keeps on coming to me though. It does keep coming.
Well, there's a reason, mate.
Yeah, I'm from Salford and I'm good at blagging stuff. So yeah, I mainly my workshops, but I also get commissioned to write and perform and speak. I write scripts. I've recently written a series of ethno-dramas for Manchester Metropolitan Uni with their HR team for training tools for people in the workplace. So I help their research turn it into art. So then it was used as training tools, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I'd love to develop that side more. So I tick away at everything I do and just get the work in as I can.
We have these conversations all the time. Anything that happens creative has got to be a resource.
Yeah.
To be then used to make positive change further. You know, when we do that with Manx Spirit all the time, everything we do, we then, you know, we've got a decent back catalogue of a range of things now, but it's then making them a resource to actually take it out further. Do you know what I mean? And encourage more people.
Absolutely.
There's no point just doing something creative and going, oh, look at that. Wasn't that good?
Yeah. Absolutely. And to inspire and engage others to just keep creating. And that's my aim with most of the stuff I do. I've recently written a play, co-written one on the prison system, and we got the Bruntwood Prize long list.
Right.
I wrote that with Stephen Lord, is a Salford actor and writer.
Right.
And we're hoping for funding to come in to put that on. And
amazing.
A black comedy on the prison system. It's called Bars and Birth. So I'm sure you can guess from the title what happens.
Yeah.
It's based on real life stories. It's not mocking people. It's mocking points of view to open up dialogue.
Do you know what? I have this love-hate relationship with theatre. And when someone comes up with an idea like that and you think, oh, it's great. And I'm sure the way that you do your spoken word and the other stuff, that it's going to be great and it'll be entertaining and it'll have a point and people will get something out of it. And then you think, and they'll be on a night or a couple of nights and then it'll be gone unless you get the money to do it again. So think about doing it as a podcast. And we can have a chat about that if you think there's any possibilities. And that's the beauty of like the pod play that we do, Matt May Productions, which is plays that we record as podcasts, and it gives new writers a chance to try stuff out. But we chart all over the world with it, and lots of people listen to it all over. But it just gives you a chance to have something. And I don't mean that you can that this ego thing, you've got something that's there forever. It's just that more people can listen to it and get something out of it.
Yeah, fully get that. I struggle with the ego thing a lot. I try and meditate a lot because I think when I was a kid, I was really, really shy. To me, to do what I do now, it was a laughing joke. Like, I wouldn't have done it. But I think if you do go on a stage or whatever, I think as long as you're coming at it as a place of no ego, like to kind of help others, then it's fine. And I think that's what I found in the prison system as well, egos. And lots of it, it's like, who's going to be the hero to help? But if we just sack that off and all collaborate, then we will naturally, it'll filter out. We will somehow, in our little tiny roles, we'll just help people. And that's what we need to be more like, I think. I
call it the missionary. They come in ready to fix everybody. And you're like, you're not going to fix shit because you've got this money, you've got your agenda, but that's not the person's agenda that you're actually working with. It needs to be fluid. You need to, me and Paul say it all the time, any meetings we have and all that, Burnham with Cultural Leaders Programme, have you actually asked them people what they want?
It's hard.
Most of the time, no. They've decided what project needs to happen and sorted it all and fixed it because they're all academics and they know better. And it's like, we've done projects. We went out across homeless centres, and I used to work with the homeless. I've worked in prisons. I've done quite a lot of things. But we went out and we actually sat down with them and said, right, what do you want? And they're going, well, they keep pushing me in that room, listening to Kumbaya with that dodgy bloke. He said, but that's not what I'm not in. But if I don't do it, they're going to kick me out.
Oh, no,
right? And it's like, yeah, but has anyone asked you what you're into? And then you start talking. Some are into cooking, some are into this. And that's the latch. That's when, for me, that's when you're talking to the human being, not homeless person. Do you know what I mean?
100, yeah. And because you've gone on to homelessness, I have to mention Homeless House charity in Manchester. Have you heard of Homeless House? It's only small.
No.
They Antonia Goff runs that. You must get in touch. She's amazing. And for the past year, they funded me to go across different prisons. I was in Garth, Manchester, I was in 4 to help lifers write the life story, but because they wanted to, they weren't forced in a room. They probably could turn them on a bit, but they weren't forced to do it. And it's been an amazing project, and a book will be coming out soon. Don't know when, but exactly that. You have to give people the options of what they want. Yeah, definitely. Oh, you won't get engaging, will you?
They get caught up in these, whether it's prison, whether it's health, whether it's addiction, whatever it is, and they get labelled and stuff like that. But nobody asks them what they want.
Yeah,
I think it's just
that's where it wears them down eventually. And that, I've coached and mentored Irish prisoners. I've worked in Garth. I mean, Garth is a bleak, and for me, Garth, of all the prisons I've worked in, is what the general public would think that a prison looks like. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, physical, structurally, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, just grey. You turn down one corridor, it looks exactly the same as the other corridor that you've just walked down. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there's no outside space. There's no, you actually are in the prison. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that isn't putting people into that environment and then just doing a generic fix doesn't change anything.
Yeah, no, I understand. I do. It's hard. It's what is the fixing answer? I don't know, but I just try and go in and help those that I'm with.
Who does know the answer? Anybody who turns around to me and says, "I've got the answer," straight away I think, I don't trust you.
Because I've got no answers, mate. Just get up in the morning.
Do you know what? One of the things about getting old, and I'm talking about Damien and myself here, apart from the fact that it takes you longer to get out of bed, is that I think you realise that there aren't answers. Or there's not one answer.
No.
And you have your views about what certain, like Damien saying there about people going into the prison and they'll have a view about it, but that's only because they come from where they've come from and that's the way they've always done it and blah blah blah. And then you have other people come in and go, oh, we're going to be a bit like this, bit like that, and we're going to shake it up. You think, right, great, but a mixture of the both, or everyone kind of listening and working together. But the problem is that the charities that are organising this, because the prisons don't have the money to do it, won't talk to each other, or very rarely talk to each other, won't share information, won't collaborate.
I've come across, across that.
Because it's my contacts I've got in the prisons, and you think, great.
Well, how many times have you heard that, Paul? Silo mentality, and it's like these are our participants. No, they're people. They can go where the fuck they want.
Well, not in the prison.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean.
I think this is the stress of what everyone's under again, because then the charities have to report back to the arts council, wherever they got the funding from, on what numbers they're in. So it kind of it's wrong. It crosses over, but I kind of see why it's just the pressure at the time and the money. If that wasn't an issue, people would share. I share my contacts all the time, because you heard of Dr. Wayne Dyer? Google.
The name rings a bell. Wayne Dyer.
Yeah, he's passed away now, but he was an international, worldwide, much more than a speaker. But he does meditation. I'm not really giving him the words that he deserves.
Right.
But he talks about not holding on to stuff. Just give it away, because what you give away will come back. And I find a lot of this in the arts, especially when you're on a stage. Oh no, I'm not giving you the number of whoever's arranging that gig. And it makes me laugh, because if you're meant to do that gig, you'll do it. There's too much ego again.
I have this big issue at the moment with everyone saying, well, I'm a working class actor. I'm a working class this, I'm a working class that. Straight away, you're putting yourself in a box, and straight away, it's a way of saying, well, I'm not really getting this because of I'm a working class. And I understand that there are barriers towards being where you come from and what options you have. But ultimately, if you're good enough, you'll get the work. You'll get the roles if you're good enough to do it. And it's the same as what you've just said there. The way you perform is different from the way everyone else performs, and there are very few people that are similar. So it doesn't work like that. You'll eventually find what is for you, and whilst you're finding that, I'm sure you'll go to events and do things where you think, oh Christ, this is the worst thing I've ever done, and they never, and it doesn't work out. But that's just life. It
is. I've done a few stand-up comedy. I really want to develop my stand-up comedy.
I noticed that.
And I've done a couple. The first one I did, it actually went well for my first one. So what it did was filled me with a bit of false hope. So I said, easy this. Did another one with more established comedians. It was good, but I didn't get as many laughs than I did one. Oh God, I tried to do a bespoke one to a local pub. If there's a night in my life where I died that night. But you know what? I was a bit gutted for a week, and then I just got over it and thought, well, I've worked out what didn't work and crack on. everything on Instagram, including mine because I need work, you don't always put the bad things, do you? But
No.
you know, I'm quite glad it happened now because
we do. I do. But I'm also of that. I'm not looking to build a personal brand. Do you know what I mean? And I get it when you're younger. You've got to take a little bit of shit. I'm not talking about bullying it and stuff like that, but you've got to take a little bit of stuff because, to push through. And I can't
call it resilience these days, Paul.
Call what?
Resilience.
Well, yeah, well, they can call it what they want, but I mean that's basically what it is. But putting stuff out there and just going, yeah, I messed up, or I was, and great, and other people go, you shouldn't have put that out, and you go, you know what, I really don't care what anybody thinks.
That's something you learn with age as well, isn't it?
Yeah, like Yoda, me and Yoda don't care what anybody other than if I'm involved with a project with somebody, then I care about the project and the people involved because we're all spending our time and money and we're doing it. But if I do something creatively, someone goes, "No, I don't like that," I go, "I don't care. I really, really don't care what whether you like it or not. You do it. You have a crack at it." And then you go, "Oh, well, they don't like that." But it's like, well, and I know you not. I think that definitely does come with age. But yeah, don't, and that's what stops people getting up on the stage. I mean, the younger you, like you said, when you look back and you think, what I'm doing now. I mean, what made you start doing what you're doing and get on that stage? Because it must have been quite a barrier to get over.
Yeah, to be honest, I did a big talk on this the other day. I've suffered with something called PMDD. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a girl thing, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It's like PMT on steroids. I didn't know I had it for years.
Right.
Every 2 weeks, my confidence would go and I'd have a rage. And a rage. When you're a 5-foot woman, you're not meant to have a rage.
Yeah.
And when I used to get the feelings out through writing. And then when I kind of slowly discovered what it was, a hormonal thing going on, I was managed to channel it through it. And I just gradually, organically evolved.
Yeah.
And when I kind of saw I was helping myself, that's what kind of made me think, well, I felt so imprisoned in my own body for years. Imagine being imprisoned in your head and physically. Tell you what, I'm going to go in a prison. And that's what I did.
Literally, from that was your first steps?
Yeah, it took years. But because I felt like I had endometriosis as well. And for years, I just, not my confidence and no one would get it. But as I grew a bit older and stuff and I explored it myself through my own writing, I worked out. But, luckily I'm from a family that are not addicts or we're not a perfect family. But my mum spoke to me and I thought, well, God, I very, very nearly, if I was in a different family, could have gone down a different path.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of give me empathy. And because I'm a writer and a bit off the wall, metaphorically thought, right, I'm like in a prison cell, I'm going to go in one. I ring Fabri's Bank, hiya. Got an idea. And they let me in volunteering on Friday mornings. And then after a year, I won £10,000 in a competition, social enterprise competition at Manchester Business School, which I was never going to enter, doing an English degree. And the lecturer told me about it, and I just heard the word business school and thought, I don't fit in there.
You heard the £10,000.
Yeah. But the fact that I weren't going to do it and I won it just shows you. Just have a go at things.
What's the worst that can happen? I mean, listen, you're not, if you're going to try and fly a plane, right? Well, there's a lot of bad things that can happen. There are certain roles where you can't just have a crack at it. But most things you can. I mean, I'm not a believer when someone turns around when you get these memes and people on Insta going, you can do anything you want, and you think, oh, you can't.
No,
I can't be an astronaut. I want to be an astronaut. I can't. No, they won't do suits as big for me to ever fit in.
I've been trying for years.
You want to be what?
Just 5'1", just one extra. It don't happen. I don't grow.
But it is. So you've got these. The physical barriers are a lot harder to get over, I think, than the mental barriers. And I'm, they're talking about a mental well-being charity, and I've got issues with anxiety. We've all had. Yeah. And I think, when we all open up, we've all struggled with different things over the years, but you find your coping mechanisms where you can, like say if you're 5 foot, you're 5 foot. Mm-hmm. All right, you can wear tall, you can wear high heel shoes, get that. But there comes a point where you can't take it any further. So but sometimes that can develop the other side, obviously, like it has done with yourself in terms of the creative side.
But what you said about mental barriers, so sometimes I've been commissioned to write things for like local celebs in soaps and stuff, which is fab. They're fun, great. So I've worked along a spectrum of people.
Yeah.
And I've seen lifers more happier than people on the out. Some with loads of money. And every individual's different. But what does that say, really?
Yeah.
And could it be because they know what they've got? There's no grey area. They know where they are. They know what they're doing. Have we got too many? I don't know, but I just know that your mind is everything.
I've got a mate that ended up in prison that I've known since I was 14, 15, 16. And he says to me now he has a lot of issues and it's rage related and it's all sorts of stuff. And he says to me, I wish I was back in prison. I was told what time to get up. I knew when I had my gym every Wednesday. He said I had no room to think. So he said I just, that routine suited him.
And it's awful, is it? That's such a shame to hear that, but I've heard it a lot. And that proves that mental state and mental health is everything. And the way you look at things, there's so many viewpoints. You've got to try and learn to channel a positive spin on things, but it ain't that easy if you've not got the support around you.
I think it's all about support. I mean, you can always try and do stuff on your own, and that's where your coping mechanisms come in. But sometimes the coping mechanisms can be, well, I'm feeling a bit rough, so I'll go and have a few beers, and that's not. Listen, as a way of coping, every now and again, do it, whatever it takes. But you keep on doing that, and if you're increasing that, it's not good for you. So you do need that support, and I'm lucky. I've got a great family. Damien's got a great family. From what you said, you've got a great family, and I've got great mates. But not everyone has that, which is where the charity sector the government should step in, but they ain't gonna, and they never have. So that it's about that charity sector and being able, like, if I.
Yeah, but that family thing, Paul, that's exactly what should be. I mean, I've worked in the charity sector a long time, and it's always at the centre of Manx spirit. I say all the time, well, you're part of our dysfunctional family now. And what is a gang? A gang is a replacement family, but it's not. It's a toxic family that gives people a sense of belonging and all that sort of stuff and support. But it's contractual. You can only be a part of this family if you go and do this. So the real good, and I always say projects don't help people, people help people, and it is that family connection, but always being wary of your boundaries as well, because people can become attached to you, and it's always, you'll know that working in the prisons, you've got to be really careful. But it is that family is key. These the key words that have been coming out in discussions and stuff we've been doing. It's got to be relevant to the person. So that's, ask them what they need. Don't just guess or think you know better, for want of a better word. But it's creating that alternative family feel that somebody actually belongs. It's a sense of belonging. I think that once they're not on their own, once they can find their own solutions, and it gives them that bit of freedom to start testing that new them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what's your? I mean, where you are now, we're doing the work in prisons, and where do you want to take it? Where do you want to take what you do, which is a lot of, and I get it because we do the same, and I do this, a lot of different things. But where do you want to take that? Are you happy doing what you're doing as a freelance?
I want to develop my script writing and
Right.
writing. So I've got that many, but I want to platform, like with the play written with Stephen Lord, more of the narratives of the groups I've worked in.
Yeah.
Because I've worked with from sex workers, prisoners, so many different vulnerable groups. And I want to create art around that, but in theatre. One day, TV. I've written a few scripts. We've had some good Zooms with Stephen, but it's so competitive. But it's something you keep chipping away at. That's what I'd like to do.
Well, I think there's I mean, that's why I want to do, Matt May Productions. That's what I am trying to get with Matt May Productions. And we're very close to finishing the film that we did, The Visit, which we filmed in Manchester. And we got Lee Child as exec producer on that. And I'm hoping that opens doors to give people an opportunities, first and foremost, me, through Matt May Productions and the people that I work with, but to tell those kind of stories, but entertaining stories that sound, when people are writing, I should imagine, I don't know, I'm not reading any scripts, but I get that when you write something, I'm pretty certain I would kind of read it and go, yeah, people talk like that.
Yeah, it's
interact good. Like that. Whereas you see this stuff on TV and you think, who talks like that?
Yeah, depends.
You don't. And there's none of those real, and it's the same actors, great actors, but it's like, it's Stephen Graham available. Let's get Stephen Graham. What about Stephen Graham? And you think, he's one of the best actors there is. But even I'm getting sick of seeing him in everything. And there's loads, and I know that because I work with a lot of younger actors coming into it, and there's a lot of actors who've been around, and there's a lot, but they're not getting that. You mentioned it before, platform.
Yeah,
they're not getting the platform
as well. And same with actors, as you know. But knowing Stephen, writing with him has been a brilliant learning curve for me.
I think the problem that people get into is they're too concerned about what other people think about the work.
Yeah,
I see it a lot with creators, and I've wrote this. Will you read it? And then you come back, and everyone will always have an opinion.
Of course.
And it doesn't mean it's the right opinion.
If someone have an opinion about me,
well, yeah, but that's what the right. I get that. I mean, my big thing is if you're going to write something, write it, and they'll go, yeah, but it won't be in the right format. And he said, who cares? Yeah. Write it, get it out. That can always be done later on. And if you're getting that, so what I did with Lee, the script that I wrote, sent it to him through a friend, and it was formatted, but not as they are now that I do. And he read it and said, yeah, I really like that, because he's creative enough, obviously, to read it and go, well, I really like the story.
Yeah.
It's their job to say, oh, that's not, you need to do that, you need to do that. And it just stops people.
Yeah, but the key to it is exactly what you said earlier, Jenny, and it's using that, your condition, identifying the fact that you've got anger, that there's an emotion or there's energy of any kind. Now I'm going to, Paul don't like it when I go off. I'm quite spiritual and stuff like that.
Oh, here we go.
I am.
Get up.
Now.
My biggest driver is I'm a kid from Clayton, right? Paul's from Moston, and he's the same. That's why we both understand each other. Yeah. And if somebody says I can't do something, or I can't go where, or I can't be, it's not for you or whatever. Fuck you, I'll do it anyway. But that creates that anger in me, and that becomes a massive energy for me. That's a driver. But I've learned, rather than just getting pissed off and throwing a brick through the window, I've learned over time to change that energy, push it into a thing, and then take these people on at their level. I can out-talk them. I can I've been a union official. I've worked in the probation service. I've been more places than they have. I've done more than they have. I might not have a degree. I don't give a shit, right? But that passion. But once you get that energy and learn to manipulate it into something positive and as a driver, and then push you forward, nothing can stop you.
Yeah.
And it might not be, when you get through that door, you might decide, you might look around and go, actually, it's shit in here. I don't want to know how to do with it. But at least it's just that thing of, I don't need permission. I don't need anybody's permission. Paul doesn't need anybody's permission.
Yeah.
Well, my mum's. Certain things.
That's different. She tells you off after you've done it rather than giving you permission to do it in the first place.
If any of you two have found this at any point in your life, but like you've just said, I don't need permission. So you've said you've learned to channel your anger over the years. Have you found with other people, because I'm finding this sometimes now, I do get a lot of work in, but by God, I've grafted for it and I've networked for it and everything. People sometimes are like, how the hell have you got that? And they get a little bit on the back foot, as if when things go, if something in an area of your life, you move up in a way, whether it's spiritual, at work, Do you find that some people around you, even people that you've known years, shock you a little bit because they're a bit, I don't want to say the word envious, but unhappy with your growth?
Because you leave it, it's any peer network, any peer thing. Same as when I was at school and growing up in Clayton, and I mean, in the 70s, I've taken drugs, I've done things I shouldn't have, I've done all that stuff.
Yeah.
Once I went, nah, this ain't for me anymore, this is bullshit. You know, it's either going to be I'll end up getting hurt or I'll end up in prison type thing. But your mates are still going down that path and you go, fuck you, I'm not doing this anymore. And they all turn on you.
Yeah.
Oh, right, you sell out. Oh, your bottle's gone. Oh, yes. And I go, whatever. If that's what you think, good luck to you. Right. And I've always done that every stage in my life. I don't need to be part of that peer network.
Yeah.
I don't. They're jealous. They're actually fearful. They know. I mean, I had a lad, one of my best mates at school, all the way through junior infants up into secondary, great mate. Didn't have a great sort of family background. He used to come to us and have his tea at ours and stuff because that was his release. We were normal. Yeah, right. But he got himself in a lot of situations and he got that reputation that he was an hard lad and people would take him on. And he ended up, it was a situation, he shouldn't have done it. He ended up in prison with attempted manslaughter.
Yeah.
He was in there for a long time. When he came out, he actually came and knocked on my door. I was only in my 20s. Knocked on the door and I go, you know, where have you? Well, I knew where he'd been, but it's good to see you. And he said, I just wanted to come in. He said, I'm going. I said, I don't want this rep anymore. He said, I can't be around here anymore. He said, I'm going somewhere else. He said, I just wanted to come to you and say you were right. And I went, well, what? He said, you did the right thing. He said, everything you said. And he said, I was one of the ones that criticised you. He said, while I've been in prison, I've been thinking about you. He says, and you were right. You know, and that's, you know, I've done stuff in my life. But I've not needed permission and I've not let anybody else hold me back. And it's like, that is really difficult because you get jealousy. You know, but me and Paul do it with the charity. Paul does it with Mount May Productions. We're not, if someone wants to work with a charity or do a project with us, cool, do it. You know, we haven't got that silo mentality. Our whole central theme is if someone comes and says, I've always wanted to do this, you go, well, go fucking do it then, we'll help you.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Go on, crack on. And that's when they brick it because a lot of them would rather tell you, you know, they'd rather chat and say, oh, I'm going to do this one day. Well, and then when you call them out, then you realise what the character of somebody is. Because some will go, yeah, go on then. And then, you know, like Paul's really supported James with turning his script into a film and stuff like that.
Amazing.
Other people who run for the hills, they brick it. You see them like rabbits in it. But someone's what?
I think it's just changed. I think it's just changed as well. People fear change, don't they? I mean, listen, what I'm doing now, and you know, my 14-year-old is my biggest critic. It's like, oh, that'll be rubbish, and you go, oh, thanks. You know, but I know that he's pretty chuffed. But he's, you know, but it's only what I would have been like at 14 years old. Mm-hmm. But it is that change. But and certainly in the creative world, I think people look at it, especially if you've come into it your way and not the way that is seen as the way to go into the creative industries. Mm-hmm. Straight away they see it as, oh, who's what? She never went to, I don't know if you did or didn't, never went to drama school, never went to university. I didn't do any of that. I didn't
go to drama school. I did a degree at 29 in English because I felt I wanted one. I felt it helped me with my workshops and stuff, but what it did do was help me win 10 grand to set up my prison stuff. it was meant to be in whatever format. And I wouldn't have listened at 18. I needed to go and sell vodka shots in Magaluf and get that out of my system.
All of them false constructs exist in every field. I mean, I've done a lot within spirituality, and I've done a lot of interfaith work. And I'm a pagan, I'm a druid. So it was like you'd go to a meeting, or I even set them up, these groups and stuff like that. And then people would go, what level witch are you? And you're like, what? You know, oh, I'm a level 3 such a thing, or I've done level 3 Reiki. I mean, mate, you're chatting shit. It doesn't exist. Your connection is your connection. I don't need a certificate from some crack to tell me what I am and what I'm not. And
again, it's that
they force you into their structure because that's what they need to validate themselves, and that's going back to what you said about people going, well, how did you get there? How did you? Because I did.
Yeah,
I found my way.
But do you know David Scott? You said well, I did a gig. He compared at Media City a few weeks ago, and I briefly spoke to him before it about a bit imposter syndrome, which can get on that part of things sometimes. And he was dead nice. He was like, everyone gets it. Everyone gets a bit of imposter sometimes. So if you just manage to ignore all those other comments, you can just go forward, can't you?
It's changed. You see it within politics, you see it within Facebook, social media, all that sort of stuff, where, I've had people say to me, we've had it when we set up the charity initially, who are you to set this charity up? And what rights and what? I'm like, who are you? Right, obviously, go and find something positive to do because you obviously don't want to do this. I don't give a shit about your opinion.
But have you come across some other great charities to network with? Because I've worked with quite a few. I hope you have. Yeah.
I'm a consultant as well, so I support charities right across Greater Manchester.
Amazing.
With bid writing and all that sort of stuff.
Right,
and that's so I know loads, and I'm also a trustee for We Stand Together. So we network, we work together, we make shit happen.
But the attitude now is when we do stuff, it's like, do you want to get involved? And if they go, well, and right, fair enough, see ya. And we move on to the next one because unfortunately, it's probably, I don't call it an industry, it's probably one of the biggest industries that we've got in this country because it is so shit at the moment for so many people. So there's plenty of people out there who want to work. And, the big things with the festivals that we do is that, we go out there and we try and find organisations and people doing good things out there across Greater Manchester that either haven't got the time to tell people what they're doing, the experience to do it, just don't know social media or anything like that. And we can get them on here, we can share it across all the platforms, and just tell people what they're doing. It might help them get funding, it might help them get some bikes for what they're trying to do, it might help them introduce and get some volunteers. Everyone's crying out for volunteers at the moment. And that's just literally, the first festival we did was in Trafford. I live in Trafford, and there were organisations literally just down the road from where I am that I'd never even heard of. Really? And I just think, wow, and that so there are thousands and thousands of people out there, and this is the thing that keeps me going when you do think it is terrible, and there are lots of bad things going out there. Grassroots communities across Greater Manchester are amazing people doing things for other humans all over the place. And that's what I try and focus on. I'm not I'm lying. It does bother me that we've got people in power locally and nationally that don't talk all the time and don't do anything. Every positive change that I've seen forever, but certainly since we've been doing this, has been done because the community has got together and gone, listen, the older people during lockdown are not having any company with anyone, so let's ring them up once a week, let's deliver this, let's do that. And that happens a lot. And they're the ones who struggle to get money because they don't know how to do it.
What Damien said before about knowing what the person's individual needs are rather than a template.
Well, again, that's the beauty of trying different things like you are. I mean, you're saying that you want to get more. I mean, we should definitely. I know I want to do this anyway. Talk in terms of the charity, in terms of everything that we do. I think there's a real opportunity to some of the people that we've dealt with, where you listen to the stories, and even though it's like a really sad situation, there's humour in there.
Oh God, everywhere.
Always humour, and sometimes you're thinking, should I be smiling? But it's mank, and it's what we do. And
that humour is the key to most of it. That's how I used to get on with all the lads in prison.
Exactly that. And like the thing is, people won't talk about these narratives. We want people to talk about them. What makes everyone connect? Laughter, because we're humans, we need to laugh, you know? So yeah, listen, if I can connect with you in any way, writing wise, if the future, whenever.
Well, we'd absolutely love to do that. I think there's some, you know, we've still got it, but when we started off, we had this Caring for the Carers program, which was really looking at the people who do all that stuff for us, whether it be nurses, whether it be the police, and whether it be specifically for me, because of my mates who are in it, the prison service. So it's great to see. And we've never really, been able to push that as such, because we had lockdown and that closed everything up, obviously. And we've been doing other projects. So we've kind of moved away from that, not moved away from it in terms of we want to do it, but practically. So to see what you were doing with the prison officers, I thought was fantastic, and something that's needed for them. Like you said, even if it's just an hour of...
Yeah, and that's part of a wider research project. It's different for what I'd normally do this. So Hull University have commissioned me to do it, and they kind of design the syllabus, and I, deliver. But I'm absolutely loving it. Would you ever think it'd be so hard getting into prison legally? The things you've got to go through, the DBS checks. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Mate, where did I work? Garth, Wymont, Risley,
like
Strange Ways, Styal.
Yeah.
Do you work at Styal?
I have done, and I've been in there through theatres in prisons. I'd love, and I've tried for years, to do storytelling sessions on the mother and baby unit, but I've probably not knocked at what I've done. I've knocked on the door, then I've had to get my paid work in, and it's never happened. Yeah. If anyone's listening, I'd love to go on the mother and baby unit.
No, it was what you said earlier when you said about your the name of your play.
Yeah, so I've worked with a lot on the out, families of prisoners and female prisoners. So the kind of characters and narratives come from that.
I think what you're doing is more needed in there than it is in the male prisons, because it is totally different. The lads
offenders as well
are really good. Once they're given a sentence, they switch off. So it's like, oh right, I've got 4 years. That's I'm not saying I've seen the worst self-harm I've ever seen. People do struggle. I'm not. I've had disclosures of 4 lads of being abused, and then they get banged up. Yes, I did come home and drink a bottle of whiskey after that one. So yeah, you talk, like Paul said earlier, how do I cope with knowing that them 4 lads had been locked up having just disclosed something major, and I had to put them on an act, so they got monitored. And I'm thinking next time I go in, they're going to go mental with me because I've had them put on surveillance, but they didn't. I mean, that's... So yeah, you come home and you do. I sat in the garden and drank a bottle of whiskey that night. It was like, I was worried for him. Do you know what I mean? That the next time I went in, that they wouldn't be there.
Yeah, but it's, I don't know the statistics of things, but I've done a lot of work with Suicide Bereavement UK. They commissioned me a few years to open and close a conference with poetry, but obviously working along them, and they deliver training all over, in prisons, the army. Where have you heard of them? SB UK, Suicide Bereavement UK. They're fantastic. But with the women's prisons,
Styal's always at the top of the list. Always has been.
As I don't know. What do you mean for suicide? I don't know. Is it? I'm not. Yeah. It's terrible. But I know, as a mother myself, and seeing offenders where the children are taken off them, I can't even put my head there. I just can't even put my head there, honestly. And this is what's said a lot. Usually it's a generalization, but usually a mum has the kids more. Not always these days, but so that's why I think a reason possibly is men can handle it a little bit more than female at times, is because of that as a factor.
First-hand experience, mate. I've seen it where you're dead right. They know.
I'm hedging my words here because I'm aware.
No. They know the family, whether it's their mum, the grandparents, or the mates, are all looking after their kids or whatever. So they're all right.
Like, as a child, looking back, love my mum and dad, but I would have needed my mum more at times, just for them little things. My dad would work more, builder, and my mum, she worked, but it's just the way it was in our family,
Yeah, but I said, the women carry. I mean, it's hard to believe now when I look at my kids. And Sonia carried them. But I mean,
Yeah.
what there's no bigger connection.
No way.
Than carrying another human around and then giving birth to that human. There just isn't. So I never get into this. Well, are they closest to this? Well, of course they are. It's the mum that gave birth to them.
We'll disagree on some things, but you can't please everyone. But generalizing, 100%.
The big issue within the female prison, it's because the majority, when you get to know them, you get to talk to them. And I'm not saying there is a lot of lads that are actually victims as well as perpetrators. The majority, and I mean a heavy majority of the women that are in prison are victims of really heavy stuff, but then they've got caught up in crime and then incarcerated. Yeah. So you've got that bigger issue of that they've had a terrible life and lots of horrible things have happened to them before they got into crime. And I'm not saying, that does happen with lads as well. They've had trauma, they've had situations, but not as heavy as in the women's prison. So what we're saying in a way is they need more of your kind of work in there.
And I'd love to do it. I really would.
Because there's so much more for them to... When I've sat down and talked with female prisoners, they want to talk to you. They really want to tell you about what's happened.
Women open up. Like much more, we don't shut up. I'll admit that. We just don't. And working with lads groups, it takes sometimes a few more sessions. That's just standard, isn't it?
Well, listen, again, another thing with being old is you get lots of connections and you meet lots of people. So we know that's something that obviously.
Old, are you?
Well, yeah. No, we are. Combined age of well over 100. So that's old, but the. So we know that that's what you'd really like to do. So apart from you saying it on here, and we'll push that on here as well. And any opportunities that we see, because listen, I want to work with you. We want to work with you as a charity, and we want to see what we can do and get our heads together. And normally in the past, when we've spoken to people who are like creative spoken word poets, we've said, do recite some work. I would much prefer for people to be able to go. Where can people go? To actually see, listen, in 12 months' time, whatever you've got coming up next week will have been and gone. But in terms of online opportunities, where can people go and see the work that you've done?
Suppose it'll just be my Instagram, which is at Jenny Berry Writer, and my website, jennyberry.co.uk.
Right.
And I am on Twitter, Jenny Berry Poet.
Right. Well,
I'm trying to change it from poet to writer because I'm not just a poet. I'm a lot of things, and I want to develop my writing more to platform all my other stuff, if that makes sense.
Everybody's a poet in Manchester.
Yeah.
If you go into central Manchester and chuck a Greg sausage roll, you're lit a poet.
Well, do you know what's funny? I know we're wrapping up, but I write wedding speeches and eulogies. I've done it for years. That's how I started off writing.
Right.
I was 15 and people were asking me to write stuff, and my dad, being from Moston, was like, just because you're a kid, don't mean you can't charge. That's a job. Start charging them.
Your dad's from Moston?
Yeah.
Ah, right. Yeah, that's where I'm from, in Moston, yeah.
Yeah, so he was like, no, even if I was dead young, like 10 here, 10 there, but it's like $1 million at that age, isn't it? And that naturally evolved. But I write comedic best man speeches, and you won't see me advertise it a lot because they will not advertise. It's fine, I'm not bothered. It's money, and I enjoy practice. But they will not say, oh, yeah, Jenny Berry's done that. They'll pass off that they've done it. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Listen, mate, we'll definitely we need to arrange to have a meet up and get our heads together. There's loads of stuff I'd love to do. I love what you're doing. I love the fact that you're so genuinely passionate about it as well. And yeah, listen, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Really enjoyed it. If
I can help you in any way back, I don't know, just get in touch.
Well, if I get married again, you can write the speech.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
No worries, great meeting you.
Speak soon.
Bye.
Bye, mate. Bye. Thanks for listening to That Great Mank Pod. Please do us a massive favour and subscribe to this podcast. And if you can, leave us a review on iTunes. Both are a massive help, enabling us to promote the people and the great causes we champion to a much bigger audience. If you want to get in touch, give us a follow on Twitter at GreatMankPod and drop us a DM. Cheers.
You're listening to That Great Mank Pod, Greater Manchester's community podcast. Top one, Arky.